We do not know when it was that the tribes of the Gold Coast began to arrive from the north into the districts where they are living today, nor do we know who were the first to arrive. It seems fairly clear that the Guans or Kripons were here before, the Accras or the Fantis. The Etsis, Asabus, and Obutus may have come with the Guans or separately, but at any rate, they were here in their present homes soon after. The Obutus seem to be a branch of the Guans rather than a separate people. We can, however, make a guess at the time when the Ga nation arrived. The sixth Ga Manche, called Okai Koi, died in 1660 after a long reign. If we allow 50 years for his reign, and that of his mother, Dedi Akai, it takes us back to 1610 for the death of the fourth Ga Manche, Owura Mankpon Okai. If we allow him and the three chiefs before him 25 years each, we find ourselves back in the very beginning of the 16th century, about the year 1510, and this then should be the time of the first Ga king. There are two different traditions about the coming of the Gas to Accra. Some say that the Accras and the Adangmes came together by land, coming from a country to the east between two large rivers. Others say that the Accras, at any rate, but not the Adangmes, came out of the sea. The ancestors of the tribes of Accra, Larte, Obutu, and Moure are said to have immigrated from the sea. They arrived on the coast one tribe after another. The Accra king Ayi Kushi, perhaps Ayi the Kushite, and his son Ayite, with their subjects, the tribe of Tungmawe, now Abora, had in their company a prince with a few bodyguards, who had the commission to rule over the Akans in the interior. The tribe of Gibese arrived first with two powerful priests, Amugi and Anyayi. These priests with their people took possession of the site now occupied by the Usher and James townspeople. It was after their arrival that King Ayi Kushi and his own tribe of Tungmawe with the Obutus and the Ningoas also came out. Wete, the king of Obutu, arrived, although late yet very grand, having plenty of gold ornaments on his person. Hence it was proposed by the Accras that he should be the king of all the immigrants. Upon refusal to accept that offer, the Accras took hold of one of his arms, his people holding the other arm, which very unfortunately got plucked off. He therefore angrily retired into the sea. The numerous body known as the Asere tribe thereupon requested to have the ruling power, and that so offended the king Ayi Kushi that he also retired into the sea after he has handed his sword to Prince Ayite, who at his father's request marched with all the Accras, Obutus, and the Akan prince to Ayawaso, and there established his capital on the hill known as Okaikoi, or Kaplagon. The Asere settled at Amormorle, the Obutus on the west of that hill, and the Akan prince went to the interior to assume government over the people there. The ancestors of Moure also are said to have come out of the sea very numerously, so that a man seeing them and being astonished to behold such a host of people coming out of the sea, gave a cry, which deterred the rest still in the sea, and those became rocks. The founder of Asebu, it is traditionally reported, was Asaibu Amemphi, and his sister, accompanied by Kwaija, another giant, are said to have come from the sea with a great number of followers. On their way from the sea, which took them 5 days, they were observed by a certain huntsman, who on seeing such a large body of men, is said to have clapped his hands and exclaimed, "How numerous!" At this the line of people emerging from the sea was suddenly cut off, and became petrified and changed to several shapes and postures, which still now may be seen in clear sea extending to some distance. These two giants with their retinue traveled on till they arrived at the Iron Hill and descended to the road which leads to the base of a hill called Abarewa Enfro, the literal signification of which has reference to the difficulty of the ascent for old women. Here they parted, and Asaibu Amemphi and his sister, taking the road that leads to Akotekwa, made for the interior, finally making their abode in Asebu. Kwaija, on the other hand, took the road leading to the beach side, until he arrived at the brow of the promontory now known as Mawure, and finding the place to be well situated for fishing, he and his men halted. They immediately set to clearing the bush, which was completed on the 6th day after their arrival, probably on Monday. Having traced this so far, we come to another tradition, which says that the Accras and the Adangmes emigrated together from Tete Tutu, or as some say, from Samay in the east, between two large rivers. After crossing the Volta, they dispersed over the country. The Krobo stayed on the Krobo mountain, the Shais on theirs, and so forth, but the Accras reached the coast and formed their settlements. The Accras and Ningawas were marching in a body. During one night, the Accras hastily started and left their dough behind them, hence their surname Mashi, to wit, those that have left their dough. The Ningawas, being left behind, were called by the Accras Wur, to wit, sleepers. At any rate, it is fairly clear that the gas came from the east, from somewhere in or near the country where the Yorubas now live. The Yorubas themselves say that the gas came from a place called Ile Ife in the Yoruba country. Where they lived before that, who knows? Perhaps the two great rivers were the Niger and the Benue. The Yorubas also say that the gas used to serve them. Whether this is true or not, there certainly used to be a close connection of some kind between the two people. The Ga language today is closer to Twi and Airway than to Yoruba, but it may have changed in the course of some hundreds of years. What seems most likely, therefore, is that the Ga nation came from the east, some, the Adangmes and others, by land, and some by sea. The people of La or Labadi probably came by land, for they first settled on the hill called Aboasso and on the Nzaki River, a few miles inland from Accra. It was some little time later that they moved down to the coast. The gas formed into two confederations, the Adangmes centering round Krobo and most of the smaller tribes round Accra. The Shais at first went with the Adangmes, but afterwards left them and came into closer connection with the Accras. When the gas arrived, they did not find the country empty. Much of the country round Accra, if not actually Accra itself, was ruled by the Guans or Kirapons. These people are related to the Gas and to the Akans, if their language is anything to go by, and seem to have been the earliest of any of the present Gold Coast people to arrive in the country. They may even have been the first people of the Negro race to arrive, succeeding the Stone Age men. They live today all along the Aquapim Hills, from Barakuso through Tutu and Obosomase to Mamfe and Mampong and Larter, and so to Adukrom and Aprede. They live also on the hills on the other side of the Volta near Anum, and on the Togo hills round Amedzofe. In that part they call themselves Avatime, but they are the same people. The Obutus, who live in the Winneba district, are the same people. Possibly the Etsis, Asebus, and Afetu were also of the same nation. And more, the people of Agogo in Ashanti Akim say that when their first chief went to settle there, he found all the Afram plains, and the whole districts of what we now call Kwahu and Ashanti Akim, ruled by a great and strong chief, whose people did not speak Twi. His name was Atara Finam, or Otara Fuom, which is a Guan name. So it looks as though the Guans had a great empire stretching over most of the modern districts of Accra, Aquapim, Volta River, and Kwahu. Their chief town was Awukugua in Aquapim. The Gas do not remember fighting against the Guans and beating them, but it is almost certain that they must have done so because the Gamanche has a stool called the Guan stool. There is another possibility that Dediakai, one of the queens of the Gains who was an Obutu, may have brought her own stool to Accra. The Obutus were also Guans.